Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Very good morning. Let me see who are there in our class today. Mrinal, Abhishek, Akash, Amisha, Ansika, Ayush, Chandni, Garima, Gaurav, Jay, Kajal, Mahima, Mrinal, Priya, Priyanka, Rahul, Ravi, Ritik, Ronit, Sachin, Sahil, Sanjana, Shivam, Anurag, Ayush, Dharmendra. Okay, 38, 39 participants. Okay, so let's start our today's session. And it's my immense pleasure to welcome you all to our today's session. Very, very good morning, all of you. Good morning, everyone. Very good morning. Okay, so let's start. Today, we are going to discuss about English communication, different aspects of communication, why communication is important, and principles of communication. How will you become an effective communicator? We are going to discuss in detail today. Okay, now let's have a clear idea about communication. What is communication? The word communication originates from the Latin word communico, which means to share. Okay, so communication is regarding sharing our ideas, plans, information, messages from one person to another. Whenever we interact with someone, what is our purpose? We want to convey some messages or information, right? So we want to share our messages or information or feelings or plans to the other person. This is communication. Okay. Now, communication is very important. Why? Because in our daily life, suppose in our daily life, we have to interact with others, right? Or at even at your workplace, it's very important. At your workplace, suppose you want to give presentation, or you want to deliver a speech, or you want to communicate with a higher authority. In regarding all these, you have to be an effective communicator. Then only you will be able to give a successful presentation, or you will be able to give you will be able to provide successful speech. Okay, so communication is very important at your workplace or your daily life. Now, what are the purposes of professional communication? As I have told you that communication matters a lot at your workplace, it's very important. Now, what are the purposes of communication at your workplace? uh, that means, how can we get benefited through communication? If we suppose, if we become an effective communicator, then how can we get benefited? What are the purposes of communication? What are the needs? Let's go through the purposes of professional communication. First is advising. I will provide you very simple examples so that you can relate. Okay. Uh, Let me explain advising. Well, suppose at your workplace, you want to. Who is that? Okay. So, advising. Suppose at your workplace, you want to give advice to your junior employees. In that case, also, you have to make your junior employee understand. You have to explain the concepts they are asking, right? So, while giving advice, you have to communicate with the person, and you have to communicate effectively. Otherwise, the other person with whom you are interacting will not be able to understand you, what you are trying to convey. You have to be very clear about the purpose. What do you want to convey? Then only you will be able to advise others, right? So, regarding advice, it's important. Now, come to providing instructions and orders. Suppose you are part of management at your workplace. Suppose, and when you will provide instructions and orders to the subordinates, then you have to communicate effectively. Otherwise, you will not be able to provide instructions properly. You have to be at first an effective communicator. Then only you will be able to provide instructions and orders. So, regarding this point, also communication is important. Now, marketing. Okay. Suppose you are working in an organization where you have to deal with some customers. In that case, you have to convince the customers. You have to tell them about the products and all. You have to ask them about their feedback, how they feel about the products and all. So what I want to say, that you have to deal with the customers, and if you are not an effective communicator, then you will not be able to communicate with them successfully or in the proper manner, right? So here also communication is very important. Now, persuading. Here persuading means convincing. Whenever we are interacting with others, whenever all the participants, please mute yourself. If you have any queries, then you can ask, otherwise mute yourself. Okay, so let's continue. We are discussing about persuading. Persuading here means convincing. Whenever we are interacting with others, whenever we are communicating with others, we have to convey our messages or ideas, and through our communication we have to convince others, right? We have to convince the listeners who are listening, or with whom you are interacting. Here again, if you are not an effective communicator, you will not be able to persuade others. You will not be able to make others feel convinced, right? So communication is very important. Next is making decisions. Yes, here again communication is important. Why? Let me give you a very simple example. Suppose you are a team leader, okay? And as a team leader, you have to take important decisions. And for that, you have to communicate with the other team members, right? So while discussing with other team members, you have to communicate with the team members. You have to know what they feel, or you have to understand. You have to understand them, right? You have to discuss with your team members on different topics. Then only you will be able to get connected with them. So here again, communication is very important while making decisions. Now preparing advertisements. Okay. Regarding advertisement, communication is very very important. Why? Because you have to, while preparing advertisement, you have to communicate with others also. You have to know their feedback, what they think about your organization, and accordingly you have to prepare your advertisement. Here again you have to be an effective communicator, right? And getting feedback, I have told you that dealing with the customers, you have to know what they feel about the products and all, or you have to know about their problems, and you have to solve those problems again. And you will be able to do all these if you are an effective communicator. Okay, so these are the purposes of professional communication. And why communication is important, you all know this now, because communication is important, because if you are not an effective communicator, you will not be able to manage your workplace, your professional place, because communication matters a lot. You have to be at first an effective communicator, then only you will be able to manage your team members, or you have to able to provide instruction or orders effectively. You will be able to persuade others. So all these are possible if you are an effective communicator. Clear, all of you? Any confusion you can ask? Okay, so let's let's move on. Okay, so hmm, here you can see the chart, communication flow. It's very important, and because if the communication is not circulating properly, then it can leads to uh, miscommunication, and at the same time it can create some misunderstanding also. So at first the communication process should be circulated properly. And here you can see the communication flow chart, and we are going to discuss about different types of communication flow, like horizontal communication, upward communication, downward communication. So different types of communication flow we are going to discuss. At first, look at the chart very carefully, then I will explain. Okay, so let's start. Here you can see there are three types of communication flow: horizontal communication, upward communication, and downward communication. Let me explain. Horizontal communication occurs when the communication is between the people of the same rank. Like in the chart, you can see accounting manager and marketing manager. These are two people of the same rank. They have same rank, same designation. Okay, so when the communication occurs between accounting manager and marketing manager, it will be an example of horizontal communication. Similarly, communication between note taker supervisor and copier supervisor, or sales staff and copiers, these are people of the same rank. So it's an example of horizontal communication. Horizontal communication is when communication occurs between or among the people of same rank. Okay. Now come to upward communication. Upward communication occurs when the communication, yes, the communication or the information moves from the subordinate to the higher authority. Okay, so upward direction. See, upward. So from subordinate to higher authority. Here, for example, you can see from operation manager to the president. Here, the operation manager is subordinate and the higher authority is president. So it's an example of upward communication. Now, the communication or the information moves from note taker supervisor to operation manager. Here, operation manager is higher authority and note taker supervisor is subordinate. So, from subordinate to higher authority, upward communication. Okay. Now, downward communication. When the communication occurs between um, yes, between the higher authority and the subordinate. So, from higher authority to subordinate, like from from sales supervisor. No, sorry. From marketing manager to advertising supervisor, or from note taker supervisor to note takers. Here, for example, note taker supervisor, um, higher authority, and note takers subordinate. So, downward direction, that means from note taker supervisor to note takers. So, downward, the communication moves from higher authority to subordinate. Okay, so it's very simple. Is it clear, or do you have any confusion? You can ask me. We have discussed about um, communication, purpose of professional communication, and communication flow. After that, do you have any confusion? You can ask me. Is it clear to all of you? Um, yes, Priya or Abhishek. Okay, Priya. Yes, yes, Abhishek. What are you saying? Uh, okay, note taker supervisor to copier supervisor. It's an example of horizontal communication. Horizontal communication, because note taker supervisor and copier supervisor, these are uh, the two people having same rank. Okay, so they have the same rank, note taker supervisor and copier supervisor. So if the communication flows from note taker supervisor to copier supervisor, or from copier supervisor to note taker supervisor, it will be an example of horizontal communication, because these are the two people having same rank. The communication flows horizontally. Yes, Priya. Different. Hmm. No, there is no difference. There are no differences between, the communication process. But here we are discussing about the different types of communication flow. Regarding the communication process, there are no differences. You know, every people have to be an effective communicator in each and every step. uh, they have to be an effective communicator. There are no differences regarding the communication process. Communication process will be same in all the in all the types, downward, upward, or horizontal. Here we are discussing about the communication flow. Why communication flow is important? Because if the communication doesn't flow properly, then any information will not be circulated properly. Suppose, let me give you an example. Suppose the president, here the owner is president, okay? Suppose president is going to take a decision, okay? And then after taking a decision, the information should be circulated in all the organization. So every, every employees who are working in the organization should be aware of the information that the president has taken, okay, or the decision that president has taken. So the information should be circulated. And here we are discussing about the communication flow. How the communication flows from, from the higher authority to um, subordinate, or between the two people of the same rank, or from subordinate to higher authority. The communication process is same, but the communication flow we are discussing here. Is it clear? Okay. Okay. Okay, so let's move on. Okay. So here, yes, you can use these things in your own life, because here I want to give you the message that the communication should flow properly. Suppose the president has taken a decision, and only the account manager, the marketing manager, operations manager, and HR manager, these are the people who are aware of the decision that the president has taken. Is it okay? No, it's not good for the whole institution, because the communication should flow. If the communication is, limited within the higher authority, it's not good for the institution, because if the communication doesn't circulate it properly, how will the decisions will be implemented? How will the decisions or actions, that the president has taken, will be implemented? Or yes, implemented. How can it will be? So the communication should be flow. The communication should be circulated properly. And here we are discussing about the communication flow. Suppose when you will start working in an organization, okay, then you should be aware of regarding this communication flow, where the information should be circulated among all the people working there. Okay. Okay. Now, um, hmm, to make sure you communicate in the most effective manner possible, you need to know what are the principles of communication. Yes, we have discussed about the purposes of communication, the need of communication. Now, how can you become an effective communicator? You have to be aware about the principles of communication, then only you will be able to become an effective communicator. Whenever you will communicate, what are the things you should be aware of? What are the important aspects of communication you should remember? Okay. First is concrete. Hmm. Um, Whenever we interact with others, we have some messages and we want to convey our message. Now, your message should be concrete. That means the listener who is listening to you should have a clear picture of what you are trying to tell them. You have to convey your message or information in such a way so that they can visualize, they can understand, they can have a clear picture of what you are trying to tell them. So, this is what I mean by concrete. Now, coherent. Here, hmm. Here coherent communication means logical communication, which is well planned, logical, and sequential manner of communication. That means whatever you are saying, you should have strong points. You should always be logical. Never convey some unnecessary messages and all. And it's very important at your workplace where you have to be very precise, very um, well planned, and at the same time very confident. So whenever trying to convey something, you have to be well planned, logical, and you should have strong point behind your message. Okay. Next is clarity. It's very easy. So you should be very clear while communicating with others. Otherwise, the other person with whom you are communicating will not be understand you. So you have to be very clear. You have to make your listener understand whatever you are saying. Okay. Now consistency. Here consistency. Consistency means the consistency of tone, voice, and content, so that you can save time. It's when you will go to work in an organization, you have to be very precise. I have told you, because you have to convey some important messages and you have other works also to be done. So you have to be very precise, clear, and to the point. And there will be no time for repetition. So try to use very short sentences and short words, and your messages, whatever you are conveying, should have the consistency of tone, voice, and content. So very easy point. Now completeness. Yes, whenever you will communicate, you should always deliver complete message, complete information. Never leave your sentences incomplete. Otherwise, it can leads to miscommunication or misunderstanding. If you leave your sentences incomplete, the other person will not be able to understand you. So always try to deliver complete message, complete information. Okay. Now, courteous. Yes. Always follow courtesy. Always, um, always try to remain calm and composed. Try to behave politely with others. Okay. Respect the views of others also. Um, politeness is very important, and I believe that it's very magical quality. If you are polite towards others, you will get so many friends. You will you will be at the same time able to get respect from others. So at first you have to respect others, then you will be respected by others, right? So always try to remain calm, composed, and polite. Hmm. Okay. If the other person is disrespecting you, they will show their personality, or what kind of a person they are. If they are if they are disrespecting you, it will definitely reflect what kind of a person they are, right? In that time, what you can do is try to make them understand that no, their approach is wrong. But still, if they are still if they're keeping disrespecting you, and if they're using some kind of words which you think that no, this not they are not behaving properly, then you can simply ignore. And if they will disrespect, it will definitely reflect what kind of a person they are. It's And how you behave, it will definitely reflect what kind of a person you are, what kind of a personality you have. So always try to respect others. And yes. Hmm. 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 Okay. Yes, you are right. You may face this kind of situation, but you have to be always expressive. Never, always be open and be expressive. What you think, always express yourself. Because of fear of someone, or because of uh, whether the others find it worth or not, or whether your views will be properly valued or not. Don't think about all this. Just focus on your opinion, your thoughts. Always believe that we all are unique. Okay, we all have different mindset, we all think differently. So you have to express your thoughts, and you have to be logical. Okay, if you have strong points, if you can prove your points, yes, you have these points, and if you express your points, then no one can beat you, maybe seniors or others. Always be logical. Okay, never say unnecessary things. Obviously, you have to present yourself in such a way so that the others get convinced, and they will be compelled to accept your views if you are logical. If you have strong points, if you are expressive, if you can express your points of view logically, then they will be definitely able to um, they will be compelled to accept. Okay, and because of others, what whether they will find it worth or not, because of fear of someone else, or thinking about such things, never hesitate to express yourself. Just express your views, your opinion, whatever you think, and just focus on your expression, focus on the points. And your points should be logical always. But yes, this is very important. Your points should be logical always, and be expressive. Uh, no, I don't think that they will think if if they have proper mindset, and if they have proper thinking perspective, they shouldn't think so, because we all have the right to express our views. We all have the right uh, to put our opinion in front of the people. So we have to be expressive. Otherwise, how can we prove ourselves? How can we? And I believe that we all have different mindset, so it's not always that we agree with all the people. Maybe we disagree with people sometimes, because we all have different mindset, different thinking perspective. But it's not so that I disagree with other people, so I will not express my views. Maybe different, but you have to be expressive, and don't fear of anyone else. Always be expressive. This is- okay. uh, okay, now let's move on. Hmm. Importance of effective team communication at workplace. Um, yes, team communication at workplace. It's very important. And suppose you are a team leader and you have to lead a team. If you are a team leader, then you have to take so many responsibilities. You have to take proper decisions. You have to cooperate with your team members. You have to uh, you have to be a trustworthy person to the team members, so that the other members in your team can share their opinion with you, right? So there are so many responsibilities as a team leader. If you're a team leader. Okay, hello.